Oh my god, guys, I know it's been a while. A lot of things have changed with the tools that we use in our daily basis, Webflow, Wized, and Xano, and I think it's time to make a new video about good practices on how to build scalable web applications with this type of tools. So let's get right into it. Before we even talked about Webflow, Wized, and Xano, let's talk about the first stage of building a web application as an agency. So a client comes to you, they have an idea, you need to make sure that that idea is clear in order for you to set estimations. Something that has helped us a lot in setting up better estimations, and also for the clients to give us better feedback, is to creating a prototype for them before we even jump into Figma, into building a wireframe. So this is a must in 2026. You need to build prototype for your clients. This will help you move forward with the project way quicker, and this will also avoid changes while in development. So this is key. This is key for you to guys make the most out of your time. So nothing has changed that much in our workflow with Webflow, as we still don't have branches, but something that has definitely improved is the CMS amount of items that you can have, and also the CMS API rate limit. So this is definitely great for clients who are looking to rank dynamic content in Google or even in tools like ChatGPT, which is key now in 2026. But I will encourage you to watch our previous tutorial. Let's go to Wized, where we have real changes. Things have definitely changed with Wized. First of all, we have workflows and branches in it. Now, let me just walk you super quick on good practices here. If you haven't watched the previous tutorial, please, I will suggest you to go and watch it. But let me just show you. Whenever you create a new app, we suggest to create a variable for the base URL. In this way, you just add the extra path for the folder. By the way, should be just /auth. In this way, in a case the base URL changes, you just update here the variable. Now you can have one single folder for all of your Xano groups, but sometimes we like it to keep it more organized and just easier to, whenever we create a new function, it's just easier for us to reference the folder in Xano. So instead of just calling it Xano, for example, I will just call it Xano auth folder, for example, right? Where you just have the base URL, the /auth, and it's just easier for you to reference here Xano auth folder, and then you just pass the header here, or the parameter. Wait. Where is it? The URL endpoint, sorry. Where it will be just /login, right? Now, the good practices of using the headers, this is a must. Please go watch the previous tutorial, XBranch and XData source. This is key for every single endpoint that you create here. Now, cool thing is of also making the variable dynamic URL, or the base URL of your app variable, is that you can, whenever you create a function in code, you can use that variable in order to make the request. Also, if you need to make a fetch request directly with JavaScript instead of using Wized. So keep that in mind. Now, this is going to change something like the workflows here. Let me just show you an example here. So we have this dummy function that is, whenever I submit of the function, or sorry, the form, it triggers a workflow. And whenever you create a workflow, and let me just show you here, you are asked to set parameters. Whenever at the start of the workflow, they allow you to set properties here. And these properties can be dynamic, whenever you pass them, because you can have conditional logics here, if and else statements. So that's super great, and you can create super complex flows here. This is something super simple, we're just passing one parameter, and then we're just creating an alert. The way that you can reference the parameters is through the P letter, and this is going to be super useful. We can have plenty of tutorials on how to use this, but this will allow you to rewrite the same code in different scenarios. So it's super key that we start using workflows in 2026. Now, branches. Let's go and talk about branches. And let me just show you how this works. For example, right now, let's just do test. I'm just passing, whenever I trigger this workflow, I'm passing the parameter alert to be my name, or the name here of the form. I need to submit the form in order to get some text. So if I submit the form, as you can see, we have the word test. If I change this, we automatically get the update. So this is super cool. Now, Let's go into branches. As you can see, we have the red color here of text. If I go to my staging branch, by the way that you create a new branch is click here and create a new one. Now with this update, you need to be careful because you can remove the updates that you are working on. But this is super useful if you're working on the production project and you need to create a new feature, but you don't want to affect the production version in case you need to push an update. Let's imagine there's a new feature that I'm building, but there is a bug, an issue in the live site. But if I make my updates directly from main, I'm going to push the feature that I was working on. So in those type of scenarios, you want to be working on large features or new updates, like big important updates that will affect the production environment in a staging one. In that way, if something comes out on the production environment, you can just push a quick fix and then update this version with this flow right here. But let me just show you how both things work super quick. So we have here, as you can see, the red color, and I'm going to change it to be blue in staging. I can preview this branch, blue, fantastic. The update is done automatically. And once I'm happy with my update and I want to push it to production, I can just click here and I can do a merge. Now, as I said, you need to be careful with it, because if I go back to main, as you can see, it removed the update that I did here. So let's imagine I go back here, say /auth, I go back to my request, I return the /login, for example here, just on a scenario, right? Before you merge things, you need to pull the updates from the main branch. Let me just show you how that works. Before I merge my updates from here, it's important before you start working to update this. So this is going to do is pull the updates from the main one to my staging branch. So I click here, it will pull the updates. So now here from my staging branch, I can see the updates here. As you can see, if I go to Xano authentication, perfect. I just pull the update. So from here, this is when I can make the merge. So keep that in mind. You guys need to be careful if you're using this feature. If you're not that comfortable using branches yet in Wized, I will encourage you to not use them as you get used to it. As you need to be careful whenever you are doing a merge or an update. But let's just continue here. Because this is useful, this is super useful. Now let's go into Xano, where I think is the tool that has the biggest updates, and let me just show you. We have AI engines, which are we have done a tutorial about it this year. But the most important things here, the most important update is the fact that we have a Xano script here where you can write code in Xano. Now there's a learning curve, and probably many of you won't be going through this learning curve. But the cool thing is it's way easier to read now what is going on in a project whenever you have descriptions. So now Xano has also a new a way to view things. So we have the canvas where we can have flows like in his descriptions that will allow us to just, for example, in this scenario, to just for a new person to jump into a project to understand what is going on. If I go into a stack here, I can see, okay, fetches the user record from the database using the ID provided by the authentication token. This is fantastic. If I'm a new person that jump into the project, the descriptions are key. And this is something that you can read super easy also from here. So a new dev can jump into it and read this. So it's a must that whenever you guys create your API endpoints, use this canvas. And now, it's also key that you guys use the Loki assistant. This will allow you to guys or help you guys create API endpoints super quick. If you just have a post API endpoint that will just like for example here, if you want to make a logic or an update, hey, let's see what's going on here at the end. For example, it's returning the auto. Okay, hey, I not only want to return the O token, but I want to return the username too, for example, right? So the cool thing is now it has the context of the Xano script, and it will be able to apply your changes here. So obviously I wouldn't suggest to use this on large projects, but if you're starting a project, this will definitely help you move quicker. As you can see, it's not only passing the auth token now, it's all passing the auth name. So now I can revert the change if I want to. I can review and publish. So this is key that you guys use it. And now let's just go into my canvas and let's enhance the descriptions. Fantastic. So now we get the description of each thing. So this is nuts. This is great. Now, other details to look into. Key. We have now in the library, we have functions, but now we have folder paths to organize things. This is cool. You know, if you're talking about, you know, functions to for authentication, you can type here. Oh, what's going on? Something is going on here. Why am I writing things here? I don't know what's going on with my keyboard here. Okay, I get it. Okay, this might be an issue on them, but this was working as expected before. But now it's cool that we have now folder paths in functions, something that was super useful, and this is key for large projects. Super key for large projects is performance insights, guys. Now let me just show you an example here. Let me just pause this. So you just come here and you just go to total time and go to the last 30 days, and this is where you look into all of the flows. Oh my god, sorry. All of the flows that are using the resources from your Xano instance. So it's cool that I can see, for example, you know, the average time. So I can go into and go to the highest total time. So I can try here to find the ones that have, you know, taking the most time. And this is a super good performance of a project, but sometimes you will find places where you will want to set indexes in your tables to improve the query of the records. But this is where we finally have a place to look into functions in Xano and API requests to see the performance, so we can improve performance of things. So this is great. This is fantastic for large projects. Keep that in mind. Here, the same thing here. Now, apart from this, I think I don't know if I'm missing any specific update that has definitely improved things, but let's talk about a good practice that you should start implementing in your projects. And let me just show you here in another project. So as you guys are aware, you know, Xano doesn't have the greatest visibility whenever it comes to errors from an API endpoint or even a database trigger, because you are not aware of when does it fail. You know, at least in the API request you have the history, but with database triggers sometimes it's definitely harder to find those. So a flow that we have implemented it's pretty straightforward. Whenever you have a database trigger here, you know, it doesn't really matter the filter. It's key that you set up a try and catch here, because this will trigger the first part, and if there's an error, you want to add all of the information from this trigger to be able to store it, and at least try to trigger a notification to your Slack, for example, channel. In this way, if something happens, you can, you know, here we could pass the new and the old JSON into a field where we will have all the information, you know, all the information from what happened in this error, because the try is going to be triggered, the catch happens in case there's an error, and then finally it's something that always happens. So in case there's an error, I want to catch the error, right? Or at least see what happened in the event, and how did the error happen. This at least gives us some visibility on what is going on. So I encourage you guys to always set try and catch and create a table for logs in order to keep data. This is useful for database trigger, this is useful for webhooks, and in general it's useful for any APIs, like important or key APIs flows from your backend, where you want to save the history of events in case something happens, and where you also want to trigger maybe Slack notifications in order to notify your team if something has happened. I don't want to go too much into detail about it, but it's key. I think I have gone through the updates that we have seen, and also something that is useful that I'm missing here, that this is something that we are using in every single project. It's let me just show you a simple function that we are building that is called environment variables. Oh yeah, we have the issue to create a function. I cannot write a name. This is an issue on Xano sense. Someone needs to reach out to them. But okay, let me update the name here. Environment variables. So something that we have seen that we are using on every single project is the fact of using dynamic variables based on the database source, if it's staging or if it's production. So what we have done is we create a lambda function, and where we also pass a JSON here called header, and where we check into the header, like for example here, input that headers that for example x data source, we can create a condition like if equals test, okay, great. If equals test, I can return an object with all of my variables that will be from test, like for example base URL, and I set here the base URL, like this could be an environment variable here that I have set up in Xano, like environment variable, for example base URL, right? Otherwise I can set the else statement, that where we can return the other object where base URL is production one. Environment variable, it can be prod base URL. This is just dummy, right? But you guys get it, right? You guys want a lambda function that allows you to have all of your fields here with your dynamic values. If it's the Stripe API key, you want to have the staging one here and the production one here. And this is a function that you can reuse in different scenarios that will return you all of those details. And this way it's just way easier to maintain. You guys just have this lambda function that returns that, and just easier to maintain a project, scalable. Let me know if I'm missing something, but I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you very much, guys.